Hello again, lovely people. Hello, 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 hello. And welcome to the first Tech York event of the year. My name is Sergi. There's Ben. Ben and I, together, we are founders of Tech York, at least this edition as we know it. We started like October 2022, and we are running monthly tech events. Ben is a founder of York Creatives community, and he runs it for over a decade. And if anyone is interested in that, you should definitely talk to him and join the community. I'm here with Tech York. I also run a software and creative agency. We do like a services business, provide 2D animation, 3D animation, software development, AI engineering, all kinds of stuff for our clients. And today, we are very happy to start this year with the first event in February. And we will try to cover probably the still topic number one in the technology, business, and I would say even just like everyone minds about generative AI. But we did have a few events about generative AI. And the one thing is generative AI in like a user perspective, like when you use ChatGPT. It's a bit another one when you are like a startup founder, and we had that as well when they used ChatGPT or something around it to build something. And it's a completely different story when you try to build something with generative AI in an enterprise, in a 10,000 people company, right? And today we are going to cover exactly that. So we are going to cover how did a team led by one talented engineer, Ali Sommer, built a ZebraGPT, which is a generative AI built for an enterprise company called Investec. They have about 10,000 people globally, but Ali will tell you more about it. And they will tell the whole story of it, how they built technology, how did they get the buy-in of everyone, and basically how did they create a movement internally in the enterprise company to make it successful and to be one of the first in the world to actually ship something inside enterprise company. They built it in February last year, so it's for over a year now. It's already there, people are using, which is an amazing achievement for enterprise. And anyone works in like an enterprise company, like in a big corporation here, or no? Okay, so quite a few people. I mean, and I don't know, do you have some generative AI internally right now that you can use? How long do you have it for?
We launched about 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. Yeah, that's still amazing. Well, anyhow, with no further ado, I want to welcome here Ali Sommer.
Thank you so much.
Ali, please tell us everything.
Try to stay here. So yeah, we're going to talk about AI. Very hot topic lately. I'm going to try to go into, like, as I said, like the story of it, how it started. We'll look at certain tools. Yes, I'll the clicker. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a journey, and I'll sort of look at some of the insights that we had along the way to share with you today. So this picture, as I think, summarizes what I want to sort of focus on today. So it's a QR code, and if you want to try where it goes, you can. It's also a picture. So QR code is quite a rule-based software thing that we've done over the years, right? We've been building software for decades now. The whole world runs on it. And we're sort of making our plans accordingly that this will be the way that we will build the world. But something changed last year, or maybe at the end of 2022. The AI technologies reached such a point that in their own right, as a statistical model, they started a movement for a new type of compute. So this AI inference that we use when it's called ChatGPT, when it's generative, it's not there's not really a rule-based thing. It's just about statistically choosing the next word. And I like this picture because it puts them together. Right? So I built this with my own graphics card at home. Goes to investec.com, and also Zebra, and you can build stuff like this. My point here is like the way that we will interweave and use both rule-based traditional software together with the AI inference compute is what will define the next couple of decades as we build a new type of thing for the world to run on. So I always like to start with this quote from Satya. The main thing I want to draw attention here is where it says like all industries being AI first industries. So similar to how we went to a digital transformation, for example, I work in Investec, I work as a bank. We hear from some people who are there for a long time. They say, yeah, we literally had books. We would write stuff on them, like we used to have actual physical folders. Obviously, we went through a digital transformation, and then maybe there wasn't, maybe it's central IT department. There isn't anymore. We are all the IT department. So in that same magnitude, you can think about AI. Like every part of the organization will be an AI-first department in whatever they do. We all do in some sort of like knowledge work, so it will be inseparable on how we think about it. And when we look at the maturity model, so we started here. And I'll go over a bit of a timeline. But we can say we had the awareness. Then we did some experimentation, and we have it in production as ZebraGPT and other places. Now we're in the aspirational area, and we wanted to drive it to be a transformational part of our business, because that's where we think the value will be. That's where we will make the best out of this technology, and that's our journey. And I'll go into each of the the green dots as we go. So here's a nice product timeline made by lovely designers. 30th of November, ChatGPT was released. At that point, I had lots of interest in AI-generated images. So when this thing came out, okay, it's not doing images, but words. All right, let's give it a try. I did what everybody did, obviously. Write me a poem, write me this, write me that. Oh, it's fun toy. How nice. Then I was like, write me some code. And I'm, okay, wait, this is not a toy. This was a pretty good toy, pretty code. I gave it the interview question that we have for hiring engineers. I'm not going to tell you what, but it gave me some code in 5 seconds, and I was like, well, if I didn't have any other context, and if somebody submitted this code, I'm like, yeah, I would have hired this person. So then it started me going to every meeting that I could go to and say, wait, guys, just stop. Like, there's this other thing happened. We got to talk about this. And throughout, we'll go into more detail. But we started the AI guilds. We get an OpenAI service on Azure where Microsoft shops, so we had it internally. We continued the experimentation. We did workshops. We had various talks. It became productionalized. And it's something that now used by 5,000. So far, it's been used by 5,000 users. So half or 2/3 of our company used it. And daily, we get about 800. And if you look at in a couple of weeks' time, as unique users, 2,000 users use it all the time. We started with very, very small costs, and now we're in a success problem of, okay, how do we manage this? But the value it brings is definitely worth it. All right, so how it started. If for those who doesn't know this video, you might have seen it. This guy starts dancing in a rave and then like creates something that people go crazy and start dancing. So this is me around just December 2022. You can see everybody just going on for their Christmas holidays. So everybody just leaving. There's this great thing happening. Like, okay, I've got 3 weeks off. So I worked that Christmas. And so I started this guild, and I scrolled up all the way to the top. So as you can see, it's just me sort of talking to myself, saying it's good for writing code, it's good for summarizing. These are to the dates, 21st of December. And me just talking to myself. We looked at various solutions, and over time, more people started to come. Now, at that point, the organization did something very interesting. I was searching for some person who will be responsible, just waiting for any new innovation to happen, and then they'll be like the predetermined person to apply this innovation to organization. So I started searching for this person. It's like where do we get buy-in? Like, who does this sign the thing? How do we get approval? But one of the close friend engineers were looking at it. We wanted to get the Azure OpenAI service in Microsoft, and they had a form. they didn't even have like options on the form, but just like a free text field and said, what are you going to use it for? Like, tell us what. So obviously I used then ChatGPT to come up with these use cases. And I made them up, and the organization was like, yeah, you go submit it, see what happens. It's like, all right, this is very interesting. I have lots of agency in this then. I'll go run with it. And that this theme like repeats itself over and over in the next chapters. That person I was looking for in the bank, it was me. that was a quite interesting revelation. And the party got more heated. We got lots of people coming in. We started the guild meetings. We ran AI workshops, GitHub Copilot workshops. You know, I'm an engineer because I have VS Code on my toolbar. We ran AI drop-in sessions, which I'm going to talk about. Azure OpenAI service, we got in, and it was 10th of January when we applied. Around that time, I was checking Guardian, BBC all the time. I was like, why is the world not talking about this? And soon enough, you know, we're all talking about it. But yeah, it was quite an interesting experience to get it up and running. And I remember the day that we finally got it working was the 14th of February last year. We got the first words. We're like, yes, we're in business. And now you know, it's crazy. It's I think the most popular guild in the organization. That's where people keep up to date with latest things internally and externally. We share various things, news, and then that's how we sort of communicate around what we do. And this then like overflow from the guild itself. So we started these AI drop-in sessions where we said, all right, we're just going to set up some shop somewhere around the office. If you're interested in AI, want to talk about AI, come find us. And we had a lot of demand. So we did it for small business units, sometimes individuals, trying to understand, okay, what do I use it for? What does it mean for me? How do I use Copilot? How do I use ZebraGPT? How do I prompt? Can it do this? And sometimes people go like, oh, can it solve all the problems? And I usually say, well, it's certainly magical. It's not yet magic. But we did look at lots of use cases, and we wanted to empower everybody to drive it in their areas. Because they are the SMEs. Like, for example, we talk about credit scoring. I know nothing about credit scoring. But the person who works there does. And if I unlock them with AI, then they can run with it. So here's a couple of pictures from those days and more AI-generated zebras for attention purposes. And now we went through a couple of our other offices. This was just in the Jersey office last week. And now we sort of create these like little Miro boards for them. But the important thing is the people who come in own the use cases. Like, it's not that they're like the central place that we hold all use cases, and then you have, you know, we need to understand everything about bank. No, we need to empower everybody around the bank. So we help them put their thoughts together. If there's any technological enablement, we help, and then off they go, and then they usually come back, and then we sort of have this ongoing basis. We also haven't forgotten the developers. We ran a big session with Microsoft on GitHub Copilot. So we had more than 400 participants. That's more than half our developer community. If I made everybody 55% more productive, that's one more quarter of work that we can do from a tech development point of view. All right. So we'll talk about ZebraGPT. And I created this image before video editing was cool and mainstream. But I took an initial image from Midjourney and denoised it in every frame for a neon zebra, put the frames together in EasyGIF, and that's sort of then the loading icon for ZebraGPT and used in some other areas as well. Now, why we needed ZebraGPT? So I very vividly remember the meeting. It was some engineering meeting, and some of the higher-ups were saying, maybe we should block ChatGPT. And I was like, I was very afraid. I was like, why? Like, it's been doing all this cool stuff. But like, I know they were right. Like, we're a regulated financial institution. We can just like, you know, push data to this other company in America that we don't have any relationship with. So we needed something else. So hence we're a Microsoft shop. So the Azure OpenAI service that we could deploy to our Azure cloud infrastructure. was definitely a need for this. And soon enough, actually, over time, they did block ChatGPT, but we had ZebraGPT in place, so it was no disruption to people really, because we had an alternative. So it's secure, it's private, your data doesn't go anywhere. We made the choice of not storing people's prompts, because people using it freely was more important than the data that I could have looked at. It's hosted in Azure, it's custom built, and we're using Semantic kernel. It's, go ahead.
Sorry, just checking what you said there. So you block ChatGPT, but you're using the OpenAI interfaces with Microsoft. So what data is it all running on your data that you've collected internally, or is it actually accessing anything outside of?
We have a agreement with Microsoft, like they're hosting all of our databases as well. Yep. Similar to how the data rules apply to them hosting a Cosmos DB in Azure, same applies here. So we're not like HTTPing into OpenAI. We have our own instance in Azure that we then call to, and that's why the same data rules apply.
But ChatGPT has access to a version of the internet, is what it's trained on and based on. What's the data you're training this on?
Very good question. In the beginning, we were like, we're going to fine tune all of it, because it's already been trained. Like, it doesn't need any more internet connection after that point. And very initial use cases that I made up to apply had like fine tuning in them. But when we looked at it, we found actually we don't really need to fine tune it or added more data, because the large language model itself is already trained on a lot of data. It's seen enough, code. It's seen enough financial papers that I couldn't teach it a new pattern. So it wasn't necessary to fine tune it anymore. But we did look at the other technique called RAG, which is like augmenting some data into it, which I'll get into in a couple of slides. All right, so ChatGPT, we all remember, it's just a story of how it turned into ZebraGPT. So yeah, we all turned ChatGPT, very cool, about to be blocked. What do we do? All right, so we got the Azure OpenAI service finally running. And in the early days, we didn't even have the chat. We just had the GPT-3 as is. So even it just being able to complete texts was enough start for us. And soon enough, obviously, they added the chat version. We had the chat as well. So this is the sort of the playground that comes with Azure ecosystem, similar to the OpenAI's playground. And obviously, we say, okay, well, this is an API. So I got masters in web engineering. When there's an API, building applications on top is my bread and butter. It's what I've done all these years. So it's like, great, okay, we could build something on this. And if you think about it, it's the simplest API you can get. You give a string, you get a string. That's it. So here is the engineer-designed very first version that we put together over a weekend on this API. But yeah, it was working. So we were giving people access to Playground, or we started giving access to this. Oh yeah, the emojis are our favorite. I mean, this tool really helped me. I mean, English is not my first language, and my written English is terrible. But it helped me just create a community and do comms and announcements, all sorts of things. And yeah, sometimes I use that as a little bit of signature. I write something and say, summarize in 10 emojis, and that's my sort of strap line. But yeah, the problem, just to go back to this one, when we started trying to give this to some of the business stakeholders, they were super confused. They were like, does it not work on my phone? What the hell is temperature? What does it mean? So we needed to make it usable as well. And hence, we got lots of help. There was then a bit of an initiative in the organization. They said, okay, let's get this to production. Let's get it properly designed. Let's think about what we can do. And ZebraGPT was born. We released it widely across the organization, and it's been widely adopted as everybody's part of their workflow. Then we were invited to an event in South Africa. So Investec is a South Africa originating bank. We have our roots there, and Microsoft was doing their AI tour. And in their South Africa stop, because of our good relationship with Microsoft, they said, well, you guys built this ZebraGPT stuff. Why don't you guys want to show it? So we did a bit of a demo, had a lot of fun. And at the back of it, actually, we had a chat with the Microsoft guys and said, okay, we want to add this like RAG thing and like want to edit our own data. It's good on its own, like the LLM itself, but we want to have the Investec context. Or what can we do? How can we improve it? We hear a lot about these LangChain, but none of us in the room were like, we're not Python people. We're like C# people. Like, what do we do about this? They were like, okay, we're going to invest heavily in semantic kernel. It's going to get way much better. Try it. And actually, they did. If you look at the latest like stuff that Microsoft built on semantic kernel, they a month ago or something just version 1'd the interface. So it's been developing really nicely. In the meantime, GPT-4 came out. We added it as well, so that you get the unlocked, unstopped GPT-4 Turbo 128K at your fingertips across the organization. And for the RAG, so retrieval augmented generation, we had the new concept of ZebraGPT Assistants. So you could create an assistant, you can give it some system prompts, you can manage who sees it, you can have access control, and then you can upload some documents. And then when you ask questions about the documents, it answers back, grounded with the data that you upload. We're just flooded with use cases and to the point that we're trying to get the governance to catch up so that we have a good pipeline of people using this.
So can I ask a question?
Of course.
So, because this is an international company and you're using AI, so for example, if you're in accountancy or if you're in regulation, sometimes the same word means different things in the South African as opposed to a British context. Is this something that you think would be something that would be picked up as the AI advances in what you're using it for?
The data governance and AI governance are very hot topics. We're working on it quite closely. There's data regulation. There isn't any AI regulation sort of yet. There's some in Europe that's coming out. There was a white paper by the UK government as well. But there isn't sort of like a set of rules that you adhere by, and there's no audit that comes and says how do you train your AI model.
So what I mean is if an accountant was saying, I want to put these things in this report, but it's in South Africa, would the same the tool that you're using, would it be something that they'd understand? Okay, well, we've got this, but this is to South African standards as opposed to the same thing being done in London, and they're running the same query.
I'm not a governance person, so maybe someone who have expertise in the area will answer it better. But we look at it both from a group point of view, from the AI governance pieces. We have people, being a regulated as a bank, we have lots of people for compliance, regulation, governance. The one part that we already have is the data governance, and then the same rules apply. Okay. But from an AI point of view, we're also trying to figure out as the rest of the world does. Just
quick on your previous slide, you were talking about you built an interface where you can upload data into an area like that, and then do some work or ask the AI to do some work on it. Could you not just link it into your wider estate of here's all the data that's out there in Investec and be aware of it, or is that too big or too? So there are public assistants and there are private assistants, but the thing that we found, also as a company who are piloting Microsoft Copilot, is Copilot will do some of that.
Yeah, it does. But and they're also adding some improvements there. And once we first had ZebraGPT, even Bing Chat with ChatGPT wasn't even a thing. So it might be that they built this internally. But what we found is, if it's a very flat list of files, and then you search for what's our company's policy on passwords, it finds this document that you sent on 2019, finds other chat that these two people had, and other Word documents that maybe was referenced on Confluence, but maybe it's old. So the need born out of this is you need to curate a knowledge base. So it enables that. We are also looking into other ways of doing this. But our initial approach was okay, the easiest, upload some files, that's your knowledge base. You give it some instructions, that's your assistant, go. similar to OpenAI.
It's got quite a good range you've got there, different types of files, all sorts of pictures and things you can put in there.
Yeah. It will. So we're using cognitive search, which helps us then build on like the OCR. Like if you upload an image, it does if there's text on it, it will find the text. We're using the embedding models in OpenAI to create the embeddings, and to try to quickly summarize what embeddings are. It's like for a given paragraph, it likes finding an address, and for your question, it also finds an address and looks at the neighboring ones that you already addressed. And that's what it brings data. So instead of keyword search, you're doing semantic search, which helps a lot. Because if you could say online payments, it will also find digital transactions. So here a bit about infrastructure, Cosmos DB, Azure OpenAI service, obviously, and the storage account and the cognitive search are for the assistants that we added on later on. It's a container app running on Azure. So far, so good. Cool. So I really like this slide. This is from Semantic Kernel's documentation, and this is where we sort of place ourselves. It shows like the complexity and the maturity that you can have in an AI system. On the very left-hand side, we have the chatbot, which is just the LLM itself, no data, nothing else. You ask a question, it statistically answers your answer back. That's it. That's what ZebraGPT was in the early days, and that's a very great place to start. Now we had the RAG, so as I explained, so you find these addresses, find the relevant information semantically, you augment your prompt and generate something grounded on your data. We have it with assistants. Now the co-pilots or agents that can complete tasks, or I put in parentheses function calling, it is the sort of embodiment of what I was talking about in the very early start, where this like traditional rule-based software comes together with the power of a large language model. The possibilities are endless. Like any API that you can think of, normally you need an engineer to call an API, right? They have to build something, you have to make a post, / blah, to get some data, then to understand it, or you have to then display it in some form. Imagine to any API that you have, you can talk in natural language. Like we did an experiment where we had the open banking specification. We just fed into it, talked to it, so you can just go, what are my accounts in GBP? Okay, how much money I have on the top one? Okay, I want to make a payment to this beneficiary just by natural language, which will convert it into parameters to call your APIs. Your APIs will do their thing, get back some results. It will also interpret it and then tell it back to you. I genuinely think this is the place where like AI engineering will shine the most, where we bring these two concepts together. And then lastly, once you have, you added your data, you give it some functions or APIs to be able to call so it can actually do things for you, then maybe you don't need to talk to it. Maybe you just deploy it out in the wild and then give it some other stimuli. Let's say maybe it looks at the news on Guardian every day, and if there is a news about your client, changes your presentation you're going to do next day. Anything. And that's where we're going to go. And probably this year will be, if I may have one prediction, it's going to be the year of agents. Now we're going to, almost like a little manager, we'll have our little agents that we create, that we deploy out there. Once they do good, we're like, yes, that's great. Once they do bad, we're going to bring them back. We'll give them new instructions, then we'll put them out in the wild again. Here's what you put when you put like 4 engineers in a room with a whiteboard. That's like the initial sort of thinking around how we could get the ZebraGPT going. We have some architectural decision records, some architecture, but I'll use this image because the other one was hard to decipher. Again, like the RAG, we query, we get some data, we again prompt, we get our response. And a function calling, it's just so easy. I just pulled this from the semantic kernel exercise. But yeah, you just define your plugin. I mean, it's the tech talk, I had to show some code. Sends an email to receive. You just describe what the function does. You load up into the kernel plugin. You're good to go. You just talk to it. It will call the function. Easy as that. And these skills that we teach to AI are then becoming part of these AI plugins. And then there's a plugin ecosystem emerging where you can have them through semantic kernel on your own application. You can have them in M365 Copilot or ChatGPT or other places. It's just a set of skills that can expose itself in a JSON format for the AI to consume to then be able to call those functions back. So it's not about then like where they bolted on, but I think the idea is being able to create a repository of AI plugins to then, in a modularized way, assemble new agents, chatbots, and so on. All right, last couple of slides. So the way that we see use cases are, so type 1, personal productivity. You want to write an email, you want to summarize something. It's your colleague's birthday, you have to write the birthday message. You got the personal productivity gains right there. Type 2 is, so when some of these use cases could graduate to be type use cases, like there were lots of summarization work that we did, and then maybe it's just this one person doing, but if they're then happy with maybe this financial document that they're looking at and like doing some tasks on it, then we could have it as a type 2 use case where actually let's put on a pipeline, like all these documents coming in, let's run these prompts on these models with these configuration, store them somewhere, because we already established that on a personal level we can do it, maybe we can do it on a team level. Or you might have an existing product, like the ZebraGPT application, there's a little feedback area that we collect feedback. No AI, just they fill out a form, press enter, it goes. But we just bolted on some AI on it. So when you do it, it actually looks at the content. So I can sort of decide, I can sort of understand from all the feedback I've received, like how much of them are like feature requests, how many of them are like people like not able to do stuff, how many of them are people complaining, and so on. And the type 3 use case is where you look at a problem from scratch with AI. So it's not like bolting on or like enhancing a step in the workflow with AI, but you think about the concept altogether with AI. The example I usually give is think about onboarding. So it's usually a very difficult thing, especially a financial institution. There's lots of emails back and forth, forms to be filled out. When you think about onboarding, you usually go like, okay, there'll be a form, date of birth, name, drop down for the date picker. We're going to build all these things. Oh, we're going to do an error validation. Okay, we're going to maintain this thing now. But imagine you just have a chatbot and says, okay, this is going to onboard you. Just upload some files, random, doesn't matter. It will pull out the information. It will ask you some clarification questions. Then great, it will say, okay, I pulled all the structured data from the files that you uploaded, questions that you answered. I'll put them all in our systems. Welcome to Investec. That might be a paradigm shift use case that we do. And then lastly, like the way that we look at spectrum of AI adoption is, I want to like just differentiate it from like the vanilla data science and machine learning, where we've been doing for years. You train your own model with your own data. It takes time, it takes data, it takes compute, and it's usually, unless you're working in some of the very big companies who have these labs, it's usually just a decisioning or a categorization sort of AI that we have. What the generative AI of these large language models, some of these companies spend millions training these models, and the way that we interact with them is through prompting. It's through natural language. In one workshop, I remember a couple of people who were marketing were doing a bit of a hackathon, and they were like, when are you going to assign engineers to our team? It was like, no engineers. What do you mean? Like, how are we going to build stuff? I'm like, just use it. It's there. It's just the written English is all the skills that are necessary. In the beginning, they were a bit reluctant, but towards the end, they were having quite a lot of fun. And that's the new thing that we need to unpack as we go. Like, how do we then build this AI orchestration, this prompt orchestration, this prompt flows? That's a new thing that we all need to figure out. And lastly, obviously, even if you want it or not, all the products that you use will have some sort of AI in it. It will be infused in lots of the products that we use. Microsoft already have all these co-pilots. They have, they have 20 or something. And we also see it in all of the other products that we use. So yeah, Investec now we have these ZebraGPT, Copilots, and Copilot Studio that we experiment with, which is quite complementary and helps us with experimentation. Yeah, and that's it. That's me. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Elliot. Now we go to the questions. Anyone in the room have a question? So we can do, okay.
Yeah, business question. Actually, what's the most surprising business outcome you've had so far that you did not expect when you started this?
I think the ZebraGPT being from a simple experiment turning to something that people relied on this much. In a, I guess, half joking, half true way, one of my colleagues said, we were trying to go fast. We broke something in prod. It wasn't working. And then she said, ZebraGPT is not working. Should I just like pack my bag and go home? Like, what do I do? Which then shows like how much it was used. Like it's being used daily. So we want to add more things. So that was quite surprising to the adoption. Sorry. Yeah.
And sort of follow on from that. So I think you alluded to this at the beginning about you've been a victim of your own success in terms of adoption. How's it now? Because it doesn't come without a cost in terms of the resources you need to do this and to sustain it. And Copilot isn't cheap for Microsoft and stuff. So how does the business view this now and see it as the future investment for the organisation?
We see it as definitely the future. We are evaluating the different tools. Cost is an ingredient on this. Actually, lately we try to sort of ask people when they use GPT-4, like, what are they using it for? Do they really need it? So it's a bit of an education piece as well to show, well, actually, if you're just writing an email, GPT 3.5 Turbo will be faster, cheaper, better. If you want to analyze something very rational through something, maybe GPT-4, if you needed the token length. So yeah, and we're not going to get everything right in this experimentation. Sometimes we'll go, actually, okay, it's going to cost a lot. But if you look at the overall cost, it's definitely within some of the experimentation sort of stuff that we can do.
I guess the key thing I'm trying to get to is, do the business see tangible benefits in terms of cost savings for the business or faster value creation for what they're doing with customers and things? Are you able to point to those as particular successes? Or?
Internally for Interactive, we had a lot of success, a lot of good feedback. When you want to look at external use cases, it's a bit different. I think it was the Air Canada, was it? The chatbot gave some discount and that they had to uphold it. There's been a few. So we want to evaluate that more. But the initial bit is okay, how can we help everybody in Investec to be more productive?
Yeah.
Can I? So it's kind of on this thing, but it's in relation to there's a penultimate slide which was we were showing the evolution of AI. So from prompting to language model to AI being the center. Now, how I want to ask on that third bit, where essentially what you can say is you've got something that you can automate to essentially replace the function of somebody. So, for example, I want to monitor the risks. So for that, your role in that, would that be something where you feel this is how I want to develop this and go in this way, where instead of a risk analyst going in saying I'm monitoring X, Y, and Z, I'm monitoring some of the data, that's all automated. So all you've got is somebody looking over the whole thing as if it's a machine. Is that the way that AI is envisaged? Is that what you're thinking?
No, so on the you mean this slide? This one? Yeah, I didn't mean this as a evolution. I just wanted to have it as 3 different ways you can use AI. Some will be just on the product. But you're right. In terms of how we help people do more, I'll give an example. I was in the Jersey office, and we were talking to this business leader, and he was saying, my dealers are chained to their desk because they want to actually go out and talk to clients, understand them better, help them grow their businesses, but they have to fill out this regulatory form and then run this other admin stuff that they had to do. So I was okay, perfect use case. These people are willing to automate this part of their jobs or have AI part of their jobs so they can actually do the human stuff more. Okay. So that's how I see it. It's never okay, we're going to automate this person. It's usually, okay, there's a bunch of tasks in varying quality and varying need of human interaction. And there's some robotic ones. And those are the repeatable robotic ones that are actually usually good candidates for this type of augmentation or automation anyway. Very good question, very deep question, and I think it's going to be one of the debate of our times. One could recall I'm not saying it's the same, but the thing that is most similar in the history from the industrial revolution point of view, with like the Luddites and like not wanting the machines to take over, they want to do their craft. It's slightly different when you talk about art and what is art and creation of art. The one simple way to look at it, if there is a system that is only possible to output something based on someone's intellectual property that have copyright, and if that person not getting the copyright, then that's piracy. But the world wasn't ready to regulate this sort of creation. Like if you're Picasso and then you draw in a certain style, there's no way that anybody could sort of replicate what you do in that level. Now you could create or generate, let's say, similar things, but is that the same thing? I don't have a direct answer to it, but it's definitely a big debate, and I think we will need to find different ways to create an economy that is beneficial for all parts of the economy. So if you're an artist and your work is used as a data set for AI model, maybe you get some royalties out of generation, but about my pay grade to solve.
I want to add to this question because, to be honest, it's one of the main questions that appears from AI event to AI event. And I think there's always this division between the optimists and pessimists about it. And me being on the optimistic side, I also feel that AI right now, with all the generation power it has, it will disrupt some things, like very capital intensive, huge things like CGI for like AAA Marvel movies or anything. And at the same time, I am convinced that it will enable so much more creators. So I'm pretty sure that there will be like 10x, maybe even 100x more creators very soon, thanks to this ability to create by themselves with the help of that assistant. So we don't know what the future will be. And we definitely need to be very careful. We need to do all the ethics around AI, and we're going to speak about that during the year as well. We're going to do all the policies around it, and there are a lot of people working on it in OpenAI, in other organizations everywhere. So, and I know that a lot of those people are also on the optimistic side. We'll see where it gets us to. Sorry, just wanted to add this bit. There was a question here. Yeah.
Very good question, and I think it comes down to the full-on AI orchestration that you built around something. If your use case is, prompt in, output out, and then on the paper send, you're running a very risky business there. But with tools with like RAG, you can ground it in your data. I always say that I think it should have, because RAG is already used like red, amber, green, and like all the project managers don't understand it. I think they've just called it rage. And I'll add the E in the end because it's evaluation. Because just like code, you write it, you maintain it, you run it, you add some automated tests, you evaluate it continuously to see if it's still doing the thing that you want it to do. Similarly, when we develop these AI orchestrations, we want to do something similar, and there are semantic ways and semi-rule-based ways you can do it. And the other bit is the function calling stuff that I show. So when you bring the rule-based with the statistic-based, you have a lot more rule-based control over what it outputs. So you can build these measures in, and you can make it more consistent, but at the end of the day, it still could make a mistake. And I think from a responsible AI principles point of view, you then take on the responsibility if you got something wrong. From a regulatory point of view, I'm sure people, being humans, get things wrong, and I'm sure there's a way to correct things. But I'll give you an example where in one part of the business, they were looking at the invoices that they were doing invoice discounting. So they took over these invoices and pay for them. But they didn't want to take over some invoices that had a certain clause in them that could let the person owning the invoice get away from paying it, right? So they say, okay, we could pay a lawyer a lot of money to just advise us if this clause is in there or not. But then there goes your margin. So they were saying, well, if we can run something that's 80% successful, and we can run it for like 5 cents, and if it gets 20% wrong, that's fine. So in that business model, it still makes sense. You still make money. But yeah, so you try to prevent as much as possible. In some situations, good enough is just great. And if it gets wrong, then we can't sue the AI and send it to prison or have it pay a fine. Humans are always responsible. I think one clarification is, so we do augment it with our own data, as like in the RAG, so it does the cognitive search and gives you some answers. It will also use function calling to, on the fly write a SQL query to get some data and surface it out. So there are ways to connect it. I guess what I said in the very beginning is specific to fine tuning, which is a type of, it is machine learning where you get an existing large language model, you give it more data and outputs, and now you run those NVIDIA GPUs a bit more, and in machine learning they say it aligns better to what you want to do. For example, if we've found a lost ancient language which it never seen before, and then we ask it to talk in this language, it will go, I don't know this language. But you can fine tune it to give it corpuses of text of this new language that we found, and then go through the same training, so fine tune it further. It will learn this language, it will learn this pattern, it will learn how those tokens statistically match against each other. So that's the bit we haven't done. In the very beginning, we thought, okay, this is the way, obviously, to give it our context, Investec data. But as we found out, like 90% of the use cases, you don't need that. Like, it has seen enough financial documents, it's seen enough chats, it's seen the whole internet. So there is like a new pattern that I can really need to teach it. I just need to ground its information with some data so it doesn't make stuff up or works off of my context. And then the rest is fine. Different kinds of excitement all around. Like in the beginning, it was almost like, they say, you cannot discover new land without losing the sight of the shore for a very, very long time. So maybe a year ago, we discovered new land. So that was the excitement. And now we're building new stuff on this land. And lots of people joined, learning from these people. It's not that like I'm the only person who innovates or does something. But I think what was beautiful was we together with lots of people around us, we created this environment where people will come in. So for example, the AI drop-in sessions, one of our colleagues came in and said, I built this really cool thing, I'm going to show you now. Like, great, show me. Oh, that's great. Okay, we're going to do a live stream next week. Like, yes, great. Okay, we're going to tell it to more people. So it became amplification area, and then everybody contributing, then it amplifies it further and further, and that's now a different kind of excitement.
Gotcha. Yeah. Thank you so much. That was Ali Sommer from Investec with us.
Thank you so much.
Now you have plenty of time for networking. Drinks are up there. Networking is everywhere. So please mingle, meet each other, learn more. Thank you, man. That was very good.